There's a specific kind of exhaustion that doesn't show up on any medical test. Your blood work is fine. Your sleep, well, it's okay. 7 hours most nights. You exercise, you eat relatively well. You're not burned out. Not technically. You're still showing up, still delivering, still hitting your targets. But here's what the metrics don't capture. You can't remember the last time you felt done. You finish one project and there's another one waiting. You hit your goals and they move the goalposts. You get the promotion and suddenly you're chasing the next one. It's like running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up and you can't get off because getting off would mean falling. And the worst part? You chose this. No one's holding a gun to your head. No one forced you to take the job, to move to the expensive city, to adopt the lifestyle that now requires the salary, that requires the job, that requires the... You're trapped in a loop of your own making, and every time you push the boulder up the hill, finish the quarter, complete the certification, renovate the apartment, optimize the routine, it rolls back down, and you start again. 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 This isn't ambition. This isn't even burnout, not in the traditional sense. This is something older, something the ancient Greeks understood, something that's been waiting for you this whole time. You're not climbing a mountain. You're not building towards something. You're in the Sisyphus trap. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's start with the myth, because you probably know the name, Sisyphus, but you might not know the story, or more importantly, why it matters. Sisyphus was a king in ancient Greece, Corinth to be specific, and by all accounts, he was good at being king, clever, ambitious, resourceful, the kind of guy who always had an angle, always saw the opportunity no one else did. He even cheated death, twice. Once by tricking Thanatos, the god of death himself, into his own chains, and again by convincing Persephone to let him return to the land of the living to settle his affairs. But the gods don't like being outsmarted, and Zeus especially didn't appreciate Sisyphus revealing divine secrets to mortals. So the gods devised a punishment. Not death, that would be too easy. Not torture, too obvious. They gave him a task, an eternal task. Push a boulder up a mountain. When you reach the top, it rolls back down. Push it up again. Forever. No rest, no end, no point. Now, for most of history, this myth was used as a cautionary tale about hubris, about defying the gods, about the punishment for thinking you're smarter than the universe. But in 1942, a French-Algerian philosopher named Albert Camus looked at this myth and saw something completely different. He saw us. Not as a punishment, as a mirror. Camus argued that Sisyphus is the perfect symbol of the human condition. We wake up, we work, we push our boulders, our careers, our ambitions, our responsibilities, we make progress, we feel like we're getting somewhere. And then, we wake up tomorrow and do it again. The inbox refills, the bills return, the goals reset, the boulder rolls back down. And at some point, maybe it's at 2 a.m. when you can't sleep, or maybe it's on a Sunday evening when the dread starts creeping in. You ask yourself, what's the point? Now, here's where it gets interesting, because Camus wrote about Sisyphus in the context of something he called the absurd, the fundamental conflict between humans desperately searching for meaning and a universe that refuses to provide it. We want purpose. We want progress. We want our suffering to mean something. But what if it doesn't? What if we're just pushing boulders? Most people, when they encounter this thought, do one of two things. They deny it. No, my work matters, my goals are meaningful. Or they collapse into nihilism. Nothing matters, so why bother? But here's what makes the modern version so much worse than the original myth. Sisyphus knew his task was pointless. The gods told him. There was no ambiguity, no self-deception. He pushed the boulder knowing it would roll back down. But you've been sold the idea that your boulder is different. That if you just push harder, smarter, more efficiently, if you just optimize the right way, network the right way, brand yourself the right way, then the boulder will stay at the top. It won't. This is what I call the Sisyphus trap. And it's not just a philosophical concept. It's a structural feature of how modern ambition is designed. Let me introduce you to another thinker, the Korean-born German philosopher Byung-chul Han. Han argues that we've moved from a disciplinary society, where power controls through prohibition, to an achievement society, where power controls through optimization. In the old system, you were told, you must work from 9 to 5. You must dress this way. You must obey. The power was external, visible. You knew who the enemy was. But in the achievement society, the command is, you can be better. You have unlimited potential. You just need to work harder on yourself. You become both the master and the slave, the one exploiting and the one being exploited. You internalize the boulder. You make it yours. And the cruelest part? You can't even blame anyone. Because you chose this. You're empowered. You're autonomous. You're free to destroy yourself. Han calls this auto-exploitation, and it's everywhere. The gig economy, the side hustle, the personal brand, the constant self-improvement, self-optimization, self-surveillance. You don't just work anymore. You invest in yourself. You don't just live, you maximize your human capital. Every moment becomes a potential opportunity. Every failure becomes a learning experience. Every breakdown becomes content. The boulder isn't just a boulder anymore. It's who you are, your identity, your worth, your value. And you can't put it down. Because if you do, who are you without it? Okay, so you're trapped. You see it now. The boulder, the loop, the eternal return of the same exhausting hustle dressed up as growth. So what do? Because here's where most advice fails you. It tells you to find balance, to set boundaries, to practice self-care, as if the problem is just bad time management, as if you just need a better planner, a morning routine, a meditation app. But the Sisyphus trap isn't a productivity problem. It's an existential problem, which means it requires an existential solution. And that brings us back to Camus. Camus ends his essay on Sisyphus with one of the most famous lines in philosophy. He says, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy." Wait, what? Happy? The guy condemned to eternal pointless labor? The guy whose entire existence is meaningless repetition? That guy is supposed to be happy? Yes. And here's why. Camus argues that once Sisyphus accepts the absurdity of his situation, once he stops waiting for the boulder to stay at the top, stops hoping for a divine pardon, stops believing there's a point to any of this, he becomes free. Free from illusion, free from false hope, free from the tyranny of meaning. See, the torture of Sisyphus isn't the boulder. It's the hope that things might be different. It's the belief that this time, maybe, the boulder will stay. It's the waiting for external validation, divine intervention, some sign that the suffering was worth it. But when you let go of that, when you accept that the boulder will always roll back down, When you stop pushing it for some future reward and start pushing it because it's yours to push, that's freedom. That's revolt. For Camus, revolt doesn't mean escaping the absurd. It means embracing it. It means saying, yes, this is meaningless. Yes, I'm going to die. Yes, nothing I do will matter in the grand scheme of things. And I'm going to live fully anyway. Not because life has inherent meaning, but because I create meaning through the act of living, through choosing, through commitment. The boulder becomes meaningful not because it goes anywhere, but because I chose to push it. Not for the outcome, but for the act itself. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, cool philosophy, bro, but I can't just vibe my way out of capitalism. I have rent. I have obligations. I can't just embrace the absurd while my student loans are due. And you're right. You're absolutely right. This is where Camus, writing in 1942, couldn't fully anticipate the specific trap we're in. Because Sisyphus's boulder was imposed by the gods. It was external. He didn't choose it. But you? You chose yours. Or at least, you were given the illusion of choice. You were told, pick your boulder, follow your passion, you can be anything. And then, once you picked it, once you invested in it, the degree, the career, the lifestyle, the identity, you became trapped. Because now the boulder isn't just a task, it's you. And that's the trap. The sociologist Max Weber had a term for this, the iron cage. Weber argued that modern rationality, the drive for efficiency, optimization, bureaucracy, creates a cage that we can't escape. We build systems to make life easier, more predictable, more rational. But those systems become self-sustaining. They develop their own logic. And eventually, we're not using the system anymore. The system is using us. You don't work for money anymore. You work to maintain the lifestyle that requires the money, that requires the work. The boulder isn't taking you anywhere. It's keeping you in place. You're not climbing, you're treading. So, how do we get out? We don't. Not completely. Not if you want to keep existing in society, paying bills, eating food. But we can change our relationship to the boulder. We can recognize the trap. We can stop pretending there's a top to the mountain. We can start pushing differently. All right, let's get concrete. Because philosophy without application is just cocktail party material. If you're in the Sisyphus trap, if you recognize that feeling of endless pushing with no real arrival, here's what you need to understand. The trap isn't the boulder. The trap is believing the boulder is going somewhere. So the first step, and this is hard, is to stop waiting for arrival. What does that mean? It means stop living in the future. Stop telling yourself, once I get the promotion, once I pay off the debt, once I have X in savings, once I finally achieve Y, because there is no once. There's only now, and the next now, and the now after that. The arrival you're waiting for, it doesn't exist. And not because you're not working hard enough, or you haven't found the right path, but because arrival itself is a lie, a carrot dangled by a system that needs you to keep pushing. Which brings us to the second move, redefine success. What counts as making it in your life? Be honest. Is it the job title, the salary, the house, the respect of your peers, the Instagram aesthetic? And now ask yourself, who decided that? Did you decide that? Or did you absorb it from your parents, your school, your social circle, the algorithm, the market? Because here's the thing about the Sisyphus trap. Most people are pushing someone else's boulder. They're pursuing someone else's vision of success. And they don't even realize it until they get there and feel nothing. So this is your permission Define your own Boulder. Maybe success isn't the corner office. Maybe it's the time to read. Maybe it's the freedom to walk your dog in the afternoon. Maybe it's the ability to say no. Maybe it's mastering a craft no one will ever pay you for. Maybe it's just feeling present in your own life. I'm not saying quit your job and become a nomad. I mean, do that if you want, but that's not the point. The point is, stop outsourcing the definition of your own success. Third, embrace the repetition. This is the Camus move. This is the Revolt. You're not going to escape the boulder. Life is repetitive. You will wake up tomorrow and have to do many of the same things you did today. The inbox will refill. The dishes will pile up. The work will continue. But what if that's not a problem? What if the repetition is where the life is? What if meaning isn't found in the arrival, but in the gesture? The daily choice to show up, to care, to try. The writer and mythologist Joseph Campbell talked about the hero with 1,000 faces. The idea that every story is fundamentally the same journey. Departure, struggle, return. But he also said something else. He said the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. Not who you'll become, not the optimized final version, but who you are, right now, in the mess, in the repetition, in the pushing. What if Sisyphus is happy not despite the boulder, but because of it? Because it's his. Because it's what he does. Because he's fully, completely there. Fourth, build something that can't be measured. This is the antidote to the achievement society. Because achievement culture turns everything into metrics. Your worth becomes your output. Your value becomes your productivity. Your identity becomes your resume. But here's the thing. The things that actually matter, connection, beauty, love, presence, they don't scale. They can't be optimized. They can't be put on a dashboard. A conversation with a friend, a walk in the morning, a meal you cooked for no reason, a book you read slowly, a project you work on that will never make money, never impress anyone, never matter in the eyes of the market. These are the things that remind you that you exist outside the system, that your life is not a portfolio, that your worth is not determined by your climb. These are the moments when you put the boulder down. And finally, laugh at it. Camus was an absurdist, remember? And absurdism has a sense of humor about the whole thing, a kind of cosmic joke. We're all pushing boulders up hills. We're all going to die. Nothing we do will last. The universe doesn't care. Isn't that hilarious? Not in a nihilistic way, not in a nothing matters so screw it way, but in a liberating way. Like, you can take it all a little less seriously. You can stop pretending that your quarterly earnings or your LinkedIn endorsements or your optimization strategies are cosmically significant. They're not. You're a hairless ape on a rock hurtling through space, worried about your email response time. And that's okay. That's beautiful even. Because if none of it matters cosmically, then all of it can matter personally. You get to decide. You get to choose what you care about, what you push toward. What boulder is yours? That's freedom. The Sisyphus trap is real. And you're probably in it. Most of us are. But here's what I want you to understand. The trap isn't the boulder itself. It's the story you tell about the boulder. It's the belief that it's taking you somewhere, that your worth is determined by how high you push it, that someday, if you just push hard enough, you'll finally be done. You won't. The boulder will roll back down. It always does. The work will continue. The goals will reset. The inbox will refill. And you have a choice. You can keep pretending this time will be different, that this promotion, this achievement, this milestone will finally be enough. Or you can do what Camus suggests. You can turn around, look at the boulder, really see it, and say, this is mine. This is what I'm doing. Not because it's taking me anywhere, not because it's leading to some grand finale, but because I'm here. And this is my boulder. And I'm going to push it. Not for the gods, not for the market, not for the audience. For me. And maybe that's enough. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. One must imagine you happy. Not someday. Not when you finally arrive. Now.